If you've ever believed that one small moment can change an entire life, then stay with this story until the very end. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because what happens next will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. The bell above the bakery door rang softly as snow drifted down from a gray winter sky. Inside, the warm smell of bread wrapped around everyone like a promise. Just outside the glass door stood a young woman, her hands trembling as she gathered the courage to speak. Her coat was thin, her shoes worn, and beside her stood a little girl clutching a small stuffed toy, her cheeks red from the cold. The girl looked up at the counter with hungry eyes. In a voice barely louder than the falling snow, the young woman said, "My child hasn't eaten anything. Can you share expired bread?" At that exact moment, a tall man in a tailored coat stepped inside, the kind of man people noticed without knowing why. He was the CEO of a billion-dollar company, a single father who had walked in only to buy pastries for his daughter. What he overheard stopped him in his tracks. Ethan Carter had learned how to hide his emotions behind sharp suits and calm decisions. Years ago, after losing his wife, he had buried his pain under work and responsibility, raising his little daughter Lily on his own. To the world, he was powerful, successful, untouchable. But when he heard that young woman's words, something inside him cracked. He looked at the little girl, no older than 3, hugging her toy as if it were the only warmth she had left. Ethan knelt beside Lily, asking softly if she liked bread. Lily nodded shyly. The woman stiffened, ready to apologize, ready to be turned away again. That had happened too many times already. Her name was Grace. She had once dreamed of a quiet life. Maybe a small home, a stable job, laughter at the dinner table. Instead, life had taken everything. Her husband had died suddenly, leaving her alone with a child and medical bills she could never catch up on. She worked wherever she could, but winter had been cruel, and that week, there was nothing left. Asking for expired bread felt like the last shred of dignity slipping through her fingers. She expected judgment. She expected silence. She did not expect kindness. Ethan stood up and told the baker to pack fresh bread, warm pastries, and milk. When Grace tried to refuse, tears burning her eyes, he gently shook his head. "No one leaves hungry," he said. He paid, then asked if they had somewhere warm to go. Grace hesitated, embarrassed, but finally admitted they were staying in a small shelter across town. Ethan offered them a ride. Every instinct told her not to trust strangers, especially powerful ones. But something in his voice, steady, human, made her nod. During the drive, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, crumbs on her coat, finally full. Grace stared out the window, ashamed of how quickly tears fell once she felt safe. Ethan listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer empty promises. He simply listened, and for Grace, that mattered more than anything. When they reached the shelter, Ethan didn't just drop them off. He stepped inside, spoke to the staff, and quietly made arrangements for a private room for a few nights. Grace didn't know how to thank him. He simply said, "Someone once helped me when I didn't think I deserved it." Over the next few days, Ethan couldn't forget them. He returned with groceries, warm clothes, and toys for Lily. But more importantly, he asked Grace about her skills, her past work, her hopes. She had studied accounting before life fell apart. Ethan offered her a temporary job at his company, not as charity, but as a chance. Grace almost refused, afraid of failing again, but Lily's small hand in hers gave her courage. The days turned into weeks. Grace worked harder than she ever had, driven by gratitude and the need to stand on her own feet again. She learned quickly, stayed late, and slowly, her confidence returned. Ethan watched from a distance, careful not to cross lines, but something else was growing too. A shared understanding between two broken people doing their best for their children. One evening, months later, Ethan found Grace in the office after hours, staring at a spreadsheet with tired eyes. He offered coffee. They talked, not about work, but about grief, fear, and the quiet strength it takes to keep going. Grace admitted that day at the bakery had almost been her breaking point. Ethan confessed that hearing her ask for expired bread had reminded him that all his success meant nothing if he ignored the suffering right in front of him. Winter slowly faded into spring. Grace moved into a small apartment. Lily started preschool, laughing more than she ever had. Grace was offered a permanent position. And Ethan, for the first time in years, felt his heart open. Not just to love, but to purpose beyond profit. He began funding programs to help struggling parents find work and childcare, quietly at first, then openly, using his influence for something that truly mattered. On Lily's birthday, Grace invited Ethan to a small celebration. There was a simple cake, balloons, and a room filled with warmth that no amount of money could buy. As Lily hugged Ethan and thanked him for the bread, he felt tears rise, unashamed. That single moment outside a bakery had changed all of them. The story didn't end with riches or miracles falling from the sky. It ended with dignity restored, kindness multiplied, and two families finding hope in each other. Because sometimes, the greatest changes don't begin with grand plans, but with listening to a trembling voice asking for expired bread. If this story touched your heart, remember to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that remind us. Kindness is never expired.